71式奇神兵。こいつの光学系対空砲の照準に使えたはず。ダメか、完全に壊れてる。関節部分はひん曲がってるか。これじゃ使い物にならないな。69式だ。こいつの装甲確か縦にちょうどよかったよな。ひっぺがして持って帰れないかな。
シルク
ライン、こいつ奇神兵じゃない、コロニークライブだ。奇神兵の装甲を空にしていたのか。
俺が奴を引きつけて転倒させる。奴が転倒したらその隙にアーツを打ち込んでくれ。
Welcome back! I'm Cymax, call me Cy or Max, whichever you prefer. And now we're getting into the story with the main cast proper. Starting off, we have a quick information about the hit point gauge. The blue meter indicates party members' HP and is always on the left side of the screen, whereas the enemies will have theirs right up in center in a reddish-orange glow. First thing to note, they've really streamlined the UI. Personally, I didn't have too much issue with the original, but I can definitely understand when some people thought it was being clunky. Moving on, we got another confirmation about using arts. In Shulk's case, he has probably his most iconic move, the backslash, as well as light heal, which restores hit points. Note that whenever you select a healing art that chooses a single target, you have to press up and down on the D-pad after selecting the art to confirm who you wish to heal. With that out of the way, let's begin! And now, the main difference between using the Monado and every other weapon? Arts recharge naturally. For those of you who got into this game after playing Xenoblade 2, I am so sorry you had to suffer with non-recharging arts unless you had the right power type and such. This can be useful. In this case, we'll just wait for the backslash icon to recharge. And in the meantime, we've got our talent art up. In this game, using auto attacks will generate the gauge in the center of your palette, which in turn lets you use the talent art. In this case, well, okay, maybe I should just say what's on the tutorial first and not any of that. I'll keep note for future going forward. Sorry about this roughness. For now, let's turn strike. Enemies defeated will drop treasure chests. Press A to open it and take the loot. More importantly, I want to have a look at that agility down. I'll get into this in a moment, but this is a really powerful debuff. For now, let's just grab this gravel chest by going up and pressing A and taking all the gear. Might as well, since those tutorials are good. Whenever you see tutorial added, I will pop it up and show you everything there is. For now, the only new tutorial that hasn't been shown yet is casual mode. If enemies are getting too much to handle, then enable the casual mode to lower the difficulty of all battles. This is a big improvement compared to the original, where they'd only lower the difficulty for certain bosses, and that's only if you failed to defeat them multiple times. In this case, however, you simply open the system menu with the plus button and go to the options, followed by game settings, and then you can just turn casual mode on and off. Whenever the prompt is shown recommending the switch, press the minus button and you can go immediately to it. That shouldn't be an issue. So for now, let's get on to our next battle. Barrier battles. These only show up in certain events, mainly tied to the main story, though there might be one or two exceptions. can't recall at the moment. Anyways, the green ring prevents you from escaping. The only way to get out of it is to defeat the monster. Let's begin. Engage. And now we can talk about aggro and positioning. Aggro is the measure of a monster's feelings of animosity towards each party member. The more damage that a monster takes from a party member, the greater the aggro towards them. This is important to note because Shulk has some really high burst damage. Anyways, if a party member becomes the target of a monster's wrath, an aggro ring will appear around them, as indicated here with Ryan. And ooh, chart arts! This is an interesting new addition to the UI. I already discussed how Shulk's backslash deals bonus damage from behind. Or at least I think it did. Anyways, new to this version, a little exclamation icon will actually indicate whether or not an art's bonus effect can be used. This, I'm sure for many of you, is incredibly useful, especially when fighting larger enemies where you can easily lose track of which direction they're facing as you sneak around behind. Anyways, when you're in position to begin the bonus effects, the icon will show up in the chart art, we know that. So you finally use the aggro rings to help find the best position. When an aggro ring appears around Ryan, Shulk has the best chance of using backslash from the rear. If successful and the bonus condition is met, the damage value will be displayed in a little, I don't know, exclamation bubble, I guess? Kind of drawing a blank on this here. Anyways, if you need to refocus the camera, press in on the right control stick, and now we hit it with a backslash. Right itself is getting a little low, so let's top him up a bit.
ありがとう、ライン。助かったよ。
たく、一人で勝手に行っちまうんだもんな。あんまり離れるなよな、俺から。コロニーから一歩外へ出れば、こんなのがゴロゴロいるんだからさ。
うん。でもおかげで、こいつの殻取れたし。コロニーのみんな、きっと喜ぶな。
そういうことじゃなくて。まあいいか。そういうお前だから作ってくれるんだもんな。最高の武器。このジャンクバンカーだって優秀だぜ。
ディクソンさんが作る武器の見よう見まねだけどね。
ま、ダンバンのあれにはかなわないけどな。
モナドか。いつかあの力の秘密解き明かしてみたいな。
期待してるぜ。さあ、コロニーへ帰ろう。訓練の集合時間に遅れるとぶん殴られるんだ。直角ひげに。
直角ひげ？はあ、防衛隊長か。怖いもんね、あの人。
そういうこと。
ごめんね。防衛隊の休憩時間だったのに無理やり付き合わせて。
いいって。さあ、急ごうぜ。
Next up, and I'm probably gonna just mention this in advance, this video is going to be very tutorial heavy, so if you're not really interested in that, I'd recommend skipping ahead. And for the most part. Anyways, destinations. Since in the old version of the game you had a crazy taxi arrow in the sky, as noted by a certain famous Let's Player. This time it's been replaced with a dotted line on the minimap. The path to the next main story objective will always be displayed there as indicated by the red flag. You can switch the minimap display from its current state to full screen mode by pressing down on the left control stick. Then there's the story memo. Press ZR to display the guidance panel in the bottom right corner of the screen, allowing you to check the story memo. And press it again to close it. Moving the camera. I already mentioned before about how you can rotate and reset by using the right control stick. Whenever the battle palette isn't active, you can also readjust the positioning a little by pressing in any of the D-pad's directions. You can also hold ZL to... Okay, no wait, I misread it. You need to hold ZL first in order to slide, and then up and down on the right control stick to zoom in and out. Honestly, I shouldn't be surprised with that. It was how it was before. Anyways, saving is... well... it's kind of optional. There isn't an autosave function in this version, but more importantly, free save slots per user account. Ever since the Nintendo Wii U, I have missed this feature so much. I really wish they didn't drop it. It's so useful! Anyways, you cannot save during battles and story events, however you can in any other situations okay. Okay, the autosave feature should help you out every now and then if you're worried, but it's still important to manually save every now and then. Anyways, the autosave icon will appear on the bottom left screen, which is a little blurry in this case, but considering how clean the UI is and how big the text also is compared to its normal version, that's not bad. Once again, in the system menu, you can review any tutorials at any time. As I've shown before, pressing the minus button whenever a tutorial's added or any other status effect will pretty much open it straight away. The Events Theater. Yeah, taking yet another cue from Xenoblade 2, you can now view any cutscene you've already experienced in the story, including adjusting certain factors like the time of day, the weather, even the appearance of the party's equipment. And you can only view this from the title screen, however, so you can't just pop into it right now. Changing the settings below, you can adjust all that stuff, and there they are. New tutorials! Continuing with the camera, you can basically move it around freely as I pointed, and it goes into greater depth about the ZL options with zooming in, zooming out, resetting, which you don't need to hold ZL for, and even the sliding positions. By briefly pressing down on the R stick, you can move the camera immediately behind the player and make it follow them from behind automatically. Moving it in any other direction will disable the auto-following function until you press down on the R stick again. Now I just want to double check all the other tutorials. Oh yeah, there's plenty. Let's go with the notifications and equipment stuff first. Update notification icons will be added to the menu elements that are newly introduced or updated in the course of the game. These icons will be removed once you've checked out the corresponding item, and you can toggle the icons addition by pressing plus to open the system menu, going into the options, notification, then through to the update notification icons and changing it that way. 2 types of equipment. Oh, so many people are gonna love this. On the upper section you have your base equipment and whatever armor you're currently geared with. Then there's cosmetic equipment. This was a feature added to Xenoblade X and was sorely missed. It's in every other entry. Basically, many players are going to run into the situation of getting a bunch of gear with great stats but not having a full set, or just having one that they personally don't like the look of. You can then use these cosmetic items to change the appearance of all weapons and armor that the specific character is wearing. It's nice to know that any equipment that you have obtained before is available to use as cosmetic equipment. If I'm not mistaken, this means that you can technically sell Shulk's starting gear, but you'll still be able to equip it as part of your cosmetics, just without the stats. Now onto the controls. It's pretty basic, just showing what every button prompt is for different areas, like the field controls, battle controls, and that you can just pause the cutscene and then skip it if you wish. Also, yeah, there is a jump button, but it's not that great, so don't worry too much. Battle tactics with Shulk. Not gonna lie, I kinda missed the actual artwork that showed each character with their talent in action, but again, this is really clean, and I'm pretty sure the text has been increased in size, so that's nice. Anyways, one of my favourite aspects of this game is how they manage to have the characters conduct meta commentary on their own art and skills. In this case, we have Shulk. My talent art is Turn Strike. It deals a lot of damage and can inflict break on the enemy. Talent gauge fills when I auto attack, so it's vital to auto attack and not just use art all the time. I let Ryan bear the brunt of the attacks, and he can take a lot more knocks to the head than I can. Oh yeah, leave it to me! I distract the monsters and draw the aggro while you do damage with backslash, so don't let me down. When Ryan's feeling a in the heat a bit, I can use Light Heal to help him get back in the game. Thanks, Shulk. But make sure you don't draw too much aggro yourself. Sometimes you just want to lay off the arts for a while. This blue text, do not underestimate it. Shulk's backslash has really high burst damage that can cause him to draw the aggro at a ridiculous rate. When they say lay off the arts for a bit, they mean unless you're the tank, lay off the arts and use them sparingly. Find the right opportunities to deal the most damage, without the biggest consequences. Anyway, going on to Ryan, and his talent art, Mad Taunt. Alright, my talent is Mad Taunt, and it provokes monsters to attack me, drawing their aggro. It distracts them from the others so they don't get attacked, and the talent gauge fills up when I auto-attack. My job is to protect Shulk. I let the talent gauge fill up and use Mad Taunt to draw aggro. Pretty nifty, right? The talent gauge fills up whenever you use Bone Upper too. Yeah, I can hear you, Lenny, facing on the other side of that screen. Now get your mind out of the gutter. Anyway, it's pretty useful whenever we need the Mad Taunt in a pinch. Now, if a monster's suffering from break, I can use Wild Down to topple it. Good or what? Yeah, I'll break them with Turn Strike, and then you topple them with Wild Down. And this leads into our next tutorial. Break, Topple, and Daze. Break is an interesting debuff whose sole purpose is to basically make the enemy vulnerable to a topple. Whenever you attack an enemy with a break art, you inflict break, and whenever you attack an enemy suffering from break with a topple art, that'll inflict topple. For any enemies that are toppled, that end up in this topple state, will be unable to attack or move. This is very useful. Not only for... This is a lot more useful than you think. Mainly because it can be used to get away, but more importantly, enemies suffering from topple cannot avoid attacks. It's a very powerful condition, and there are strategies in the post-game called topple locking that pretty much make it so that you can cheese through a lot of tough fights, so long as you manage to keep that topple duration up. We don't have any arms that can inflict this yet, but it's worth keeping an eye on Daze. Whenever an enemy is toppled, you can inflict the Daze condition, which on top of all those effects, cannot have its aggro increased. This is the chance for characters with lower defenses like Shulk to basically spam backslash and all the other powerful arts for the duration. More importantly, Daze actually freezes the timer on the topple condition, so when an enemy exits Daze, they'll go back to what state they were in the topple timeline. Fortunately, we have a little countdown that lets you know how much time you have, but yeah, topple locking plus Daze is basically a win strategy. Anyway, let's open this chest after enjoying a bit of... That was nice. Anyways, we'll take all this gear with us, circle around, and personally I'm going to zoom the camera out all the way. A lot of people, well, at least the vocal minority, complained about the models in the original version looking lower quality than PlayStation 2 graphics. That's been fixed with this update, using a nice style of, I don't know, cell shading and whatever they use to render the clothing in a much more artificial light, but it's a really nice style. I bring this up with the character model quality because, honestly, those people who complain clearly don't understand how draw distance works. If you have a higher poly model of smaller objects and creatures, that's really going to cause the GPU to chug. I mean, just look at the history of Final Fantasy XIV and what happened before Yoshi P and his crew were brought on board to save it. Anyways, enemies in the overworld will have a little tag on them. I could be mistaken, but I don't remember this being originally the case, so that's pretty useful. As you can see, we can walk past, the chance icon even activates at times. Do not mind the Joy-Con drift, Anyways, collectibles! The latest additions to your collection can be registered in the Collectopedia. Fill in a row or collect all the items in an area to receive a reward. I'm going to be upfront with this. I am completing this game 100% through, including all the side quests whenever they're available. For some people, this might seem like I'm going to be over-leveled for the boss encounters. But that's only if I were to use the optimal armor and gear. I'm going to be changing that on a spare. I'm going to be changing that stuff sparingly, so you're going to find that my levels are pretty even. Anyways, we have this on the menu, so how about we enjoy that cool potato for a split second and actually have a look at this. You have tutorials, options, going back to the title screen. You can save a file and load it. Yeah, no, that's how late I'm starting this. But then there's expert mode. Another new feature. This lets you reserve a portion of the experience points earned from exploring, quests, combat, etc. for later use, rather than having it be dumped into them immediately. You can enable expert mode by opening the system menu with plus, going to the same name option, and then toggling it on and off. It's disabled by default, but when it is enabled by pressing down on the R button, all further experience gained through completing quests, discovering landmarks, locations, and gaining achievements will be reserved for later use. You can also adjust levels on the fly, using reserve XP to increase characters' levels, and even converting all accumulated experience back into reserves to bring them down. This is interesting. This was an option that was toyed with in Xenoblade 2, but you couldn't actually bring your levels down until the New Game Plus option. Additionally, you couldn't adjust your levels willy-nilly whenever you wish, but had to go to specific areas. You can just do this for free wherever you are. That is honestly awesome. Anyways, level adjustment is performed individually for each character. Select your desired party member, then press A and pick up desired level to confirm. While leveling up, the maximum level available with your current reserve EXP will be shown, and you cannot lower a character's level beyond that of which they were first introduced at. It's not much of an issue for now because Shulk and Ryan are both level 1. For later party members, this is something else. Anyways, I'm confident with this game, so I'm actually going to turn it on right now and show that, yeah, literally nothing so far. Anyway, with that out of the way, I'm going to go experiment with the rest of the menu. Pressing X lets you bring up this main menu as opposed to the system one. And you can check out a couple things. Changing time, area maps, collectibles of all sorts. Achievements. These are a pretty big list of things to do. You've got 150 records, rewards that require doing certain stuff like trading with enemies, doing a decent amount of damage with a single attack, and then trials. We've already discovered our first landmark, so that gives you an idea. Interestingly, they even have a difficulty icon and actually show how much experience you've got. Experience aside, the difficulty thing wasn't in the first game, but in the first version of the game, but yeah. I mean the non-definitive. You can change time wherever you want, and this is done by pressing left and right on either the left control stick or D-pad. I might be mistaken on this, but I believe... No, I don't think the original let you just automatically select time by pointing the left control stick in a direction. Yeah, I'm thinking of another game altogether. But yeah, you can adjust the time whenever you wish, and there actually is a time-related achievement. I'll get to that in a bit. For now, if we go out and press Y, we can automatically open up the map that we're currently on. Zoom in and out with the right with the R stick, with the cursor, up and down to select whichever landmark we've discovered. Even set a white marker. Okay, they really took some notes. Okay, they really compared notes with the Breath of the Wild team on this. That is, if the people who worked on this actually were the members of staff who... Anyways, then there's the legend. This gives you an idea of all the stuff. You've got your current location, the direction that your camera is facing, not that matters much, your next destination, and any exit points that would take you to a different region in the game world, a movement point, which is We'll get to that later. There's also shops, harvest points, not visible yet, same with the heart to hearts, same with a bunch of objectives. You can track a person? Time attack portal? They've really added a lot to this. Also, apologies if I was a bit off center from the mic. I'm trying to get used to this. I wanted to bring up the area list because, yeah, that red dot shows where on the bionis we currently are. We're on the hill. And man, it gets better from here. Going back into the main menu, I want to go over to the equipment quickly and talk about stats and item details. Item details pretty much gives you any information on whatever item is currently selected. But in this case, you got your armor, which shows. Actually, wait, yeah, it even highlights which stats in particular this item affects. So, for example, the colony cap only affects the defenses and weight, whereas the junk sword does everything else, as well as defenses. Now for stats, because much like the Final Fantasy series, the Xenoblade series isn't 100% consistent. It's not even, for example, Xenoblade 2 takes place in its own universe. It's not a direct sequel, so you can go to either or without any issue. This also applies with stats. Hit points we already know about. Sorry, just thought I heard something. Then there's auto attack. We'll get to that in a moment. Strength is the value used for dealing all sorts of physical damage. Whenever Shulk uses backslash and run while down, they will use the strength modifier on top of any other damage, on top of the base damage stats for each art. Physical defense, as you'd imagine, is used to calculate how much damage you reduce out of physical arts. And the same can be applied for E for any for defense, with it being this universe series' equivalent of a magic system. Going back to auto attack for a moment. Auto attacks in this game are all physical damage. So you may be thinking, why not just have strength with the universal value? That's because auto attacks actually add both the auto attack stat of whatever weapon you've currently equipped to its base value and strength altogether. With a minimum and maximum value to add a little bit of an RNG flair. We won't see this for a while yet, but there actually was a glitch in the original version of this game on the Wii that made it so that the highest possible value an auto attack damage could deal was the minimum at plus 99. I know for a fact it's been removed in this edition, although I'm not entirely sure about the new 3DS port. I've heard some sources claim it has, others it hasn't. Anyways, skipping over agility, because we will get to that, trust me, we have critical rates. This is your percentage-based chance on how likely you are to score a critical hit, which deals 25% more, or 1.25 times the base value of any attack. There's also a hidden value in this game called critical heal. It restores a similar proportion of bonus health to any party members, but it cannot be modified. At least, not to the extent that I'm aware of. Then there's block rate. Similarly, it's a percentage that guarantees how likely you are to reduce the damage from an attack. If I remember correctly, it only... Actually, I gotta double check for a moment, hold on. I believe in this game a blocked attack completely negates all damage, though I could be mistaken and it's only half. I feel confidence more for the former, but I can't be certain. The main reason for this, Xenoblade 2 players take note. Apart from a small handful of exceptions, the highest possible percentage modifier for crit and block rates tends to cap off at 20%. There are several... You may be thinking that's pretty low and probably shouldn't rely on it. There are plenty of alternate ways that will boost these rates to a significant degree. Alright, and we'll get to that in a moment. And we'll get to that when they come in due course. Now there's agility. Every Xenoblade title is known for having at least one stat that is frankly overpowered and can break the game. Agility is that stat. It doesn't just calculate the chances of avoiding any attacks received, it's also used to calculate how likely you are to hit. It only applies with physical damage, but for physical attacks, but it's still pretty important. As you can see here, Shulk starts with 15 and Ryan's a bit less. I will say this now, Ryan has one of the highest HP and strength stats in the entire game, is honestly in his league of his own when it comes to physical defense, and being really tanky, but where he falls short is his ether damage and agility. He is the least agile, and in the later game when the numbers start getting really high, you're gonna have to start thinking of ways to overcome that. Yeah, I like that challenge and spirit you got there, Ryan, let's do this! Anyways, Shulk, as you can see, is a little more squishy. His strength, it might not seem that high, but again, bonus effects like backslash really make up for that. Whenever you get a new party member, always check their base stats. They give you a slight idea of what they're good at and what they aren't. It always comes in handy to know. Anyway, onto the fashion gear. We have the Ecru. Ah, yeah. So that's what they call it. But now there's not much else we can see here, interestingly, but that's only because I'm looking at headgear. When we go into the bodies, yeah, Ecru is basically the term for the swimwear / naked attire. Okay, I know Shulk's supposed to be an engineer and scientist, but why do all video game characters have to look so perfect? Anyways, the colony type is Shulk style is basically what Shulk's wearing, and Hom's military is Ryan's? Okay, it's only for the torso, the middle type is for everything else. Now again, going with the Ecro, when I say swimwear and such, I do mean swim... One moment, Joy-Con drift not now. Bordering between boxer shorts and actual swimwear, this is pretty much the source of some absolute shenanigans you can have in the game. For now, I'm just gonna go over these icons and get rid of them because I am obsessive compulsive like that. Exiting out even before I actually select it because I'm being reckless. Now, if we press the plus button, we can go into the sub-menu. Clearing appearance gets rid of all fashion gear. Useful to know. Oh, you can also remove whichever item is selected on. Remove all armor. Gems, we'll get to that, and it's a similar case with weapon and armor gems. Then there's viewing the character with the minus button. You want a full display? You want to tweak with this void and do some fun and interesting stuff without holding ZL? You can. Don't get too weird about this, please. Anyways, the items menu. Here we can view pretty much everything we have in the game, categorized by weapons, head, torso, arms, legs, and feet armor, gems and crystals we'll get to later, our collectibles, as well as the sales price. This will come in handy. Same with materials, those key items, and arts manuals. If we go into our materials and select Y, we can change the categories to different factors like showing all or whichever ones we need for quests. Sword mode, give me a moment, I want to figure out how you use sword in this version of the game without actually reading the UI. The tutorials, because I am weirdly stubborn like that. Oh! By pressing on the right brow, you basically can select an item as your favorite, just like with the left pressing down on the L stick. That's good to know. Anyways... No, I don't want to discard, I want to... Oh, okay, I just have to press right on the D-pad to switch over from category to sword. Oops. Anyway, as we can see here in the Collectopedia, there's a whole bunch of items. Each collectible has its own name, and again, I'd recommend you fill these out as soon as you possibly can. You'll gain nifty items and other little useful bits that can help you through the game, and pretty much with side quests mean that you effectively don't need to buy anything from the store. With a few exceptions for getting new armor sets, of course. But now I'll just pop this cool potato in here and enjoy the description of a cooling green root that is particularly valued in summer. Now you may notice there's more than one page right now. There's colon 9, and then there's other. These other collectibles are incredibly rare and usually have a certain trick to obtaining to them. We already got a hint for one in the achievements page with a certain bug called the Minute Mantis. Or is it Minute Mantis? I'll let you guys decide on that. Anyway, I'm going to be continuing down for now, enjoy that achievement for I forget what, and basically just let you enjoy the music.
さてと、俺は防衛隊本部に顔出さなきゃな。お前は兵器開発局の研究棟か？うん。
使わないパーツ売ってからね。
わかった。じゃあまた後でな。
With that, Ryan is temporarily of the party, and I hope you enjoy this screen because you'll be seeing it a lot whenever there's any particular shift in the story. We can immediately go into the main menu and change our party's equipment. This is very useful for in situations when suddenly you find yourself with a new party member that you want to swap in. And I'm just going to say this, it even shows up in the middle of boss fight stages. You can have so much fun with this. Anyways, visiting shops. Whenever you see that little tender icon above an NPC, above a character's head, it basically means they're a merchant, willing to buy and sell goods with you. You can make money by defeating monsters and selling the loot they drop to a shop. These icons are actually very useful. With the small bag, as indicated by, with the inexpensive loot indicated by the small bag pretty much being safe to sell whenever you wish. When it comes to the big bag, used for expensive loot, I'd recommend saving these. More often, pretty much every item you need for quests, trading, etc. will be marked as an expensive loot. This is very useful because our inventory is actually limited. I'll get to that on a later date. Accepting quests. Press A to talk to anyone with an exclamation mark above their head to initiate the quest, completing which earns you money, experience, or items, each at different values. When it comes to characters with actual names, you can press the Y button and potentially trade some useful items with them. This is very useful if you need to find a hard-to-reach collectible, so I'd recommend checking the trade menu with every character and see what they have. Some of them will gladly take an item you don't need in exchange for a rare one. The story will progress even if you don't do any trading or complete any quests though. But using these features may give you an advantage. Again, there's a lot of ways you can be over-leveled, under-leveled, or just not the right experience. It's flexible. Enough of that. For now, we have a few new tutorials. Quests, which talks about the quest log. This gives you basically the title of a quest, the region it's located, and a few other little things. The stopwatch icon will indicate if a quest has to be complete either within a certain point of the story, but these are few and far between, and I'll make sure to point out when exactly you need to take care of them. That said, you do want to try and complete these limited time quests as soon as you can. Better safe than sorry. And then there's the affinity chart. With each, there are multiple areas in the game, and each has their own affinity with the party. When your affinity with an area increases, a star will be displayed on the affinity chart. The bare minimum is 1, and it can go up to 5. New quests will become available as affinity with an area increases, and high affinity will also mean that you will be able to trade more items. You gain affinity through a bunch of things, but for now let's have a look at the tutorial rule for each quest. When you select a quest, you can open up a detailed description. Run on the quest log to see what you need to do, what rewards you're going for, a little bit of the description, and even the quest giver. When it comes to activating a quest, highlight the preferred one, whichever you prefer, and press on the right brow to set it as active. Main story quests are automatically tracked and cannot be deselected. You've basically got it stacked on. Press R again, or complete the selected quest to remove its active status. You can similarly set a quest as active by checking its details and pressing R. Using the active quest guidance, after setting an active quest, the quest progress will be displayed in the guidance panel. As you can see, there's a little red box in the back behind that, which is always the main story. When the story memo is displayed, you can toggle between that and the optional quest by pressing left and right on the D-pad. If the quest progress is extra pages, you can also press left and right to view them and then go back to the story memo. When you have an active quest set, you can change the page on the guidance panel to show a path to that quest target on the minimap. If the quest has multiple targets in different locations, the path will guide you to the nearest one. When you want to go back to tracking the main story, just simply press left or right on the D-pad. Now let's just double check if there's any others hidden here. Nope. Anyways, here we are in the commercial district, and let's use this example with not the Joy-Con drift. Let's talk with Dorothy. Nothing to report. How did I sound? Like I was being alert and cool at the same time? I'm not just standing here to look pretty, you know. I'm helping out. Not like my brother. He never does anything worthwhile. Drama. Anyways, the affinity chart not only lets you see how well you're doing with a certain area, as well as the party, but it also registers the info for named residents. It's letting you see the relationships between party members and so forth. If we go over here right now, we can see Dorothy by her lonesome off in the corner. You can toggle the interface on and off by pressing down, but honestly I don't know why you would do that. If we press R, we can track their position on the map. And I gotta check this. Hold on, let's go... There we are. No, get back here, get back here, get back here! Affinity chart continued. Okay, I might as well just look at this quickly. If you are talking to a named person and someone else who is already registered on the affinity chart comes up in the conversation, these two people will be linked. Ouch! This is a problematic example. Pull on the screen. As the number of people in the affinity chart increases, try going back and talking to the people you've already met before. Completing a quest properly may even improve the relationship between two characters who don't get along well. I will warn you, on rare occasions it might actually decline, so... depends on whether you like your stickers green or red. But mostly green. Expanding and improving the affinity chart is not necessary to completing the game, but it's fun to aim for the bonuses it provides and to observe the changing relationships amongst the people of the world. Press A while selecting a town's icon, or Y while selecting a residence icon to display the affiliation list for that town. Oh. Oh, they really streamlined it. If originally they only gave the information as seen on the profile here, where they are, a personality trait, what time, you can actually interact with them, as well as just general info. I don't recall if the usual spot where they can be found is one thing, but considering you can mark them, that's not so difficult. But trading, which we'll get to later. You can I've already selected Dorothy to track, so which basically means that we won't have as much trouble finding them. Doing so will display a magnifying glass on the person's current position on the minimap. Useful. For now, let's talk to... No, you are not getting away from me, kid!
Yeah, my dad is one of the stars shining in the night sky. He watches over me every night. That's why I gaze out the window to see him too.
Oh, you precious child. Anyways, yeah. New to the Definitive Edition as well. You can see what items they're willing to trade. This is very useful. Well, not only do you not have to worry about running around the entire map trying to trade with them every time the area affinity goes up, you basically can see immediately what they're willing to trade you for. This is so good. So good. Here we are with not too much stuff to go for, but I want to go into the affinity party. Here we can see the affinity with all our active party members, as well as something that wasn't in the original, a much more detailed topic, listing their race, gender, height, age, even what collectibles and materials they like and dislike the most. We can't really do anything with it at the moment because Ryan's not part of the party. But yeah, you can gift gifts, and these likes and dislikes are actually quite notable. Now it should be noted that the party's affinity chart is a little different from the rest of every NPC in the game. Namely, its range and color coding. I mentioned before that there's a really bad relationship icon that's known as red. The party doesn't get that. Instead, their affinity scales up, starting with yellow for neutral, then I believe it was green for decent, blue for really good, a white cloud for best of friends, and then a pink heart for just... Well, I'll let you decide on your opinion and all that stuff. Anyways, as we can see, the little kid over here, Liliana, is running around, and so is her icon. Pretty useful. Now, unfortunately, we can't go into Dumblane's house, but we can see a certain face you'll probably know and love. First of all, I just wanted to collect this wedding ring since it's on the way. Soon. And now, we're just going to run through the colony. First up on the agenda, the Gem Man. Hello there, young'un. I got something that might interest ya. I'm so sorry for this accent that I'm committing to. But rather, something to tell ya. It's about this here furnace. When creatures die, they leave ether crystals behind. Everyone knows that, don't they? Ether particles in the body are... Oh, oops, that stuff's too complicated. Just remember that creatures drop ether crystals when they die. But I haven't got to the best part yet. You ready? Now don't be shocked. This furnace compresses ether crystals and removes impurities. You use it to make ether gems. What? No reaction? Kids these days. You don't know how amazing this thing is. You can use the furnace to make ether gems. They've got the powers of ether crystals but highly condensed. Those ether gems can give you all sorts of powers. They're great for you use in the home or by the defense force. Not gonna lie, I kinda wanna learn more about the whole domestic uses for gems, but we won't get to that. Anyways, just put them in weapons or armor with slots. What? That's not much of a reaction. Ah, never mind. It's probably going to be quicker for you to try. If you want to give it a try, just put gems in your weapon slots. That weapon of yours will do fine. I wanted to talk to this guy because while I'll be holding off from the side quest and talking to the NPCs for a little bit, these gems will come in handy. Note, if you press quit, you won't actually take any item that's left in that menu. Remember that. More importantly, gem slots. Shulk's gear is unique in that he actually can't change his weapon, but unlike Ryan and everyone else, to make up for this, his starting weapon, the junk sword, automatically comes with slots, something that you won't see immediately and is usually indicated with a little S on each weapon or armor that has it. Weapons can have up to 3 slots, whereas armor can only have 1 per piece. So with 8 in total, you've got some options. It should be noted, however, that some gems can only be equipped on weapons and others can only be equipped on armor, so you don't have unlimited freedom with your modifiers. And that's not counting the fact that stat boosting gems only have a cap. Anyways, gems have various qualities, and if inserted into a piece of equipment that is a slot, the weapon will take on that quality. You can highlight an empty slot in the change equipment screen and press A. Select the gem you wish to equip, and as the story progresses, you'll gain the ability to make gems yourself. Keep note of that. Yes, Xenoblade 2 fans, this is basically the source inspiration for your auxiliary core creative theme. Anyways, after dealing with Drift yet again, I hope this isn't going to be consistent. I'm going to pop these into both of these starting gems into Shulk's weapon, Junk Sword. They will come in handy, later, trust me. For now, enjoyed that hits the spot. Some of these have some good names. And we're going to start making our way over to the military district. Discovering landmarks. Well, at least they didn't bombard it with us right from the get-go. The colony features landmarks, that i.e. important places in hidden areas, and locations, known as basically places of interest. Find all of the landmarks and locations in an area to open up and complete the area map. This is no joke, it's honestly the best way you can explore the game because, as you can see, the only parts of the map that are visible are those we've explored, give or take a very generous reach. With that out of the way, well, let's continue on to the next story beat.
こら！一体どういうつもりか。
うわ、防衛隊長だ。
民家に自走砲を激突？貴様、何年防衛隊をやっておる？
しかし隊長、いくらなんでもあのスピードでの旋回は無理です。
軍軸まで40秒で戻るなんて無茶ですよ。
言い訳なんぞ聞く耳持たん。気合で曲がれ、気合で。
そんな。
貴様ら、コロニー6との合同演習において最低の成績を収め、俺の顔に泥を塗ったことをもう忘れたか。全ては気合が足りんからだ、気合が。
はい。
即刻居住区の自走砲を回収。その後全員腕立て1億回。貴様らの上腕二頭筋を破壊する。
隊長、回収はできません。
何？なぜだ？理由を言ってみろ。
はっ、激突の衝撃でエーテル電動ケーブルが損傷。それにより全エーテルエネルギーが流出。エーテルシリンダーが空だからであります。
シリンダーなんぞすぐに交換しろ。そんな単純なこともできんのか、貴様。
予備のエーテルシリンダーは全て使い切っておりまして、再充電には3日はかかるそうです。
備品の補充は常に怠りなくと言っておろうが。
はっ、申し訳ありません。
たるんどるからだ。
防衛隊長、相変わらずだな。あれじゃ戦う前に兵がへばっちゃうよ。
Now I know what you're thinking. No, the Colonel is not Waluigi's hot-blooded cousin from another reality. He's actually part of a series staple dating back to the original Xenogears, known as collectively the Van archetype. In Xenogears and Xenosaga, there was a similarly passionate military figure named Vandacon. Vandacon? I know the Japanese pronounce it as Bandacon, and that the English localizations for all the game for Gears and Saga were, well, they changed the spelling a little, but it's more or less pronounced the same. In Xenoblade, his name was actually changed to two options. We have Vanguard here in the English dub for the first, for Xenoblade Chronicles, and in every subsequent release they use Van Ham. In the Japanese dialogue, they're all collectively known as Bandam. There is no evidence so far to support whether or not this is supposed to be a name-based tribute to Jean-Claude Van Damme, so I wouldn't get your hopes up. But yeah, he is to the military and, in some cases, punching less than capable soldiers, to what Final Fantasy Sid is with any sort of engineering and magitech. Anyways, let's move on. Shulk has a job to do. We probably shouldn't be slacking off any more than we already have. He is the weapons researcher after all.
よーシュルク、元気だったか？
ディクソンさん、いつコロニー9に戻られたんですか？
ついさっきな。そんなことよりシルク、モナドの研究の方は随分進んでるようだな。ここをお前に任せて正解だったぜ。
ディクソンさんが残してくれた研究資料があったからこそです。
発動させることはできるんだな。
ええ、とりあえず発動までは誰でも。ただその後の制御が。
奴以外にはまだ無理か。
はい、ダンバンさん以外の人でもこいつを扱うことができるようになれば、僕たちホムスにとってこれ以上ない戦力になるんですけどね。
そうか。ここに書いてある拡張機能というのは？
まだ推測の域を出ていないんですが、どうもこいつはただ鬼神兵を切るだけじゃなさそうなんです。
ほう、そいつはまた興味深いな。
発動させた時に中央に出る模様、今は何層にも重なったガラス状のプレートの最上層に模様が出ています。そしてそれぞれの層は同様の構造になっている。
なるほど。他の層にも模様が出る可能性がある。
つまりは
さらなる力が秘められてるかもしれんということか。
モナド、この力の秘密の解明さえできれば。
お兄ちゃん、お兄ちゃん。
怪我の程度が重いものを優先しろ。ぼやぼやするな。
ダンバンさん、
そんな顔するな。まだ生きてるよ、シュルク。俺としたことがモナドの力に振り回されちまった。それでもな、守ったぜ俺たちの未来。後のことはお前に。
ダンバンさん。
さてと、俺は仕入れた物を防衛隊に納入せんといかんのでな。ちょっくら本部へ顔出しにでも行ってくるぜ。
あ、はい、行ってらっしゃい。
シュルクよ、研究棟にこもってるか、ガラクタ置き場でガラクタを漁ってるか、貴様の一日はどうせそんなとこなんだろ。だからそんな辛気臭い顔になる。たまには気分転換によその空気でも吸ってこい。じゃあな。